What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Faithful Fanatic. On today's show, we will be discussing the Philadelphia Phillies sweeping the Oakland A's out in Oakland. We will also be discussing the Bradley Beal trade to Phoenix. And then we will finish off with DeAndre Swift expectations on the Philadelphia Eagles. Stay tuned. We'll be back in 10 seconds. All right, and welcome to the Faithful Fanatic. I'm your host at Scotty Drown. I'm accompanied here by my co-host at DylanJD98. Good morning, happy Monday to you all out there. Thank you for tuning in to Faithful Fanatic. Of course, as you know, Faithful Fanatic is streaming live on the DSM Media YouTube channel, Twitch channel, and Twitter channel. So be sure, head over to the YouTube channel if you haven't already. Hit that subscribe button and like the video. Make sure you're sharing it out with all your friends. We're trying to grow and get engaged with as much of the community as we can here in Philadelphia. So with that being said, good morning to my man Dylan. How are you doing today, my friend? And good morning, Brett. Thanks for chapping in here.
What's going on, Brett? Nothing much, man. Different scene, obviously, down the shore. I'm burnt. I can't take much more of this, bro. You see this line? Look at this. Look at this. Don't wear a hat on the beach and drink. Like, you just forget that it's on your head, and next thing you know, you're the worst tan line in the history of the United States. But no, man, I'm good. Happy to be back on the show, and happy that the fightings kept us energized over the weekend.
Yeah, you've been treated to a pretty nice weekend from the Phillies perspective, and just being able to relax down at the shore and not complain too much about the Phillies baseball. Let's be honest. Let's get right into it, right? Mm-hmm. They go out to Oakland. They sweep the A's after they win the series against the Diamondbacks in Arizona. I think they kind of outplayed my expectations in a sense. Yeah. I asked for 2-1. I asked for them to just win the series. They're able to go out there and sweep the series. Now, mind you, the last two games, they were a little bit closer than what you would like, obviously, only winning by 1 run. And, you know, you had the extra innings on Saturday. But you do come out of those games nonetheless with W's, and you got guys significant rest during this road trip as well towards the back end, right? Bryce Harper didn't have to suit up yesterday, go out.
Castellanos hasn't played the last 2 games.
Castellanos gets a 2-game break. So guys are getting some much needed rest amongst this huge June run. They're 14-4 in the month of June right now, which is just insane. You got Kyle Schwarber with 7 home runs this month.
Yes.
You texted me yesterday, you were like, dude, Schwarber. And it's just like, what the hell's up with June? Like, dude, it doesn't make any sense.
I feel like I've sent you that text 5 times over the past week and a half. Like, I don't know what it is. There's no logic to it. There's no, like, it's every season, dude. It is every year. This dude stinks to start the season. Like, not just, oh, he's not playing well. He stinks to start the season. And then all of a sudden he comes out in June like a bat out of hell. Scotty, since he's been put back in the leadoff spot, I mean, in the last week, I think he's hit 3 leadoff home runs, if I remember correctly. I know 2 for sure in Oakland. Like, and I think he did in Arizona, if I remember correctly. So, dude, he's been unbelievable. JT homered the other night. Bohm homered the other night. Obviously, like you said, Costi and Bryce get some rest. And it's funny, man. It's like we sent the lineup got sent out, and we were texting back and forth, and you're like, hopefully we're positive about the Phillies tomorrow because Topper is just, this is a scheduled loss, right? And then not just that, I mean, guys are available in the bullpen in a 1-run game, and he stretches Junior freaking Marte out for a second inning, and this dude strikes out the side in the bottom of the 9th. So it's a weird turning point where guys are heating up, and with that, with the players actually showing up now, it's turned everything Topper touches back into gold. Like last year, it felt like everything he touched, every button he pressed worked. To start the year, when guys aren't playing to expectations, it's a lot of blame comes down on the manager. Why this guy in the bullpen? Why take him out in the 6th? Why this lineup? Well, now Schwarber in the leadoff spot, working out. The lineup adjustment, working out. The bullpen selection, working out. So it's like It's funny what happens when the players actually show up for the manager.
No, that's a great point because you're right. I texted you yesterday. We were talking about things. What could we talk about on the show this morning for this Monday morning? Obviously, the sports world is slowing down significantly when you have basketball drop off. You had football before that. Soccer's dropped off, but nonetheless, you have the you look at this Phillies team, and I was going into yesterday. I'm looking at Josh Harrison, Edmundo Sosa in the lineup, Christian Pache in the lineup, right? You're taking Bryce, you're keeping Castellanos out of the lineup. And, I saw it around Twitter as well. It came to mind, and I just thought,
it's a bad look.
It seemed like the last two games, maybe Topper was okay with losing one of those two games. But nonetheless, he comes out, he's able to get the win in those games. And now it looks like he's just believing in his guys. And maybe that's what it is, right? Like maybe it's not what we think where we're just like, some of these guys shouldn't touch the field sometimes. Even, in these situations when you're playing a team like the Oakland A's, you had a day off today. So there was a day of rest built in here anyways. But nonetheless, like you said, whenever you are able to win games, whenever your guys are able to come up big, like Kyle Schwarber leading off with a home run yesterday to change the complete trajectory of a game anytime you
and then having the game-winning single.
And then a game-winning single, right? So when your guys step up, like you said, everything that Topper touches, it seems to turn to gold.
Life becomes easier for Rob Thompson when Kyle Schwarber's, in June mode, when guys are stepping up for him out of the bullpen. But I think the one thing you said earlier, like just kind of the fact that they won these close games, I thought that was very interesting over the last two games. Obviously, they beat them 6-1 on Friday night or whatever. But the last two games, you have a 12-inning win, 3-2, right? Or what was that score? Yeah, that was 3-2. And then yesterday was both of them. Was yesterday both were 3-2, right?
Yeah.
Like yes, you can view it as you barely squeaked by the Oakland A's, but that to me again is resilience and fight, because it's very easy to get down on yourself mentally when you're struggling against a bad team. But to continue to fight through that and come away with a win is huge. And I would say this, look, I know the Reds are exceeding expectations. They're over 500. They have the longest winning streak in the MLB right now. I think it's like 8 games. But like they just swept the Houston Astros in Houston. So it's very easy to say, they beat a bad team. Yeah, well, not so good team just swept the defending World Series champions on their turf. So it's a weird sport, man. And every win and every loss is big in its own way, whether it does come in April, whether it comes in October. But what the Phillies are doing right now, the 6-game win streak, they've won 5 straight series now. They've won 13 of their last 15. It's impressive. You said it, 14-4 in the month of June. It's huge and it's exciting. It keeps the fan base alive during, like you said, the dead days of summer. There's long summer days. It's like if you have Phillies baseball to look forward to every night, it makes those days a lot more enjoyable.
Exactly. And I think something that you said there, it's a weird season. There's 162 games. Like it's a long season too, right? There's ups and downs throughout the season. And I think it's important to note that the Phillies, didn't go out to Oakland and fall asleep either. Not that they could afford to, but they did. They no letdowns, right? And if anything, they held up even stronger than what we thought they would.
They won a bullpen game.
Yeah, exactly. And you saw Sanchez in that game. He was pretty solid up until he hurt his wrist. But 4 innings pitched in that game, 1 hit, 1 walk, 5 strikeouts. So obviously I had to leave after 4 innings, but nonetheless, he looked great. Obviously Taijuan Walker on Friday night, 8 innings pitched. Bro. I mean, come on. That's when you're getting stuff like that out of Taijuan Walker, that's when your team is starting to come around and all the pieces are starting to click, man. But as we look at the Phillies, obviously coming off the big sweep here, they're going home to take on the Atlanta Braves. So
they are.
What does this, what does this turning point, I guess you could call it, how confident are you going into this series with the Atlanta Braves and looking at what they need to do? I believe they're 3 games back of the Miami Marlins for second place in the NL East. So they're third in the NL East right now. They're one game back of the wild card right now as well.
Yeah, we're 8 behind Atlanta for first.
Yep, 8 behind Atlanta, 3 behind Miami for second. So how confident are you going into this series against Atlanta back home? And what do you need out of this Atlanta series that kicks off tomorrow?
That's so tough because if the Phillies lose the series, if they take 1 out of 3 versus Atlanta, obviously it's deflating. The conversation in a lot of fans' minds will go back to, well, great, you beat excuse me. You beat the Tigers and the A's and the Nationals. They'll forget about the Dodgers and the Diamondback series, and it's recency bias, and they lost to the Braves. But with the way the Phillies are playing right now, confidence-wise, man, I told you this, before the season started. I told you this last year. I will take this ball club. I will take this lineup. Almost everybody else's. Now, the Atlanta Braves are in that conversation of
everybody else,
not everybody else's, right?
Yeah.
It's like that, but. Again, could be an outlier, different team. I get it. Look what the Phillies were able to accomplish in the postseason last year against the Atlanta Braves.
Yeah.
When the Phillies are hot, when this lineup is going, when starters are getting 6, 7, 8 innings deep, they are one of the best, deepest, most talented rosters in baseball. You can argue with a wall. If this lineup is fully healthy and like a Zach Wheeler's on the mound going 7 strong, they are one of the best ball clubs in the MLB. So I'm extremely confident with the way they're rolling right now that they're going to come home energized. Dude, I don't be surprised if this is 3 straight sellouts against the Atlanta Braves. That ballpark is going to be jumping. The weather's supposed to be nice. So confidence-wise, I'm going to predict the Phillies take 2 out of 3. Just don't be too upset if they lose 2 out of 3. That's what I would say. Because then I think the Mets series is an interesting one because the Mets are just in flux right now. They are not playing good ball. You got swept by them in New York. That's the series where if you lose 2 out of 3 to Atlanta, but then take 2 out of 3 or sweep the Mets, that's the one you're looking for. I know fans, again, they want that barometer, right? If they lose 2 out of 3 against the Braves, oh, well, who cares? We don't belong. No, that's not the case, but.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. It's one of those situations where, you do have to hone back in. It was the Oakland A's, right, that they were able to sweep.
Yeah.
But before that, right, that's where the confidence comes from.
And
the Diamondbacks and the Dodgers. Like, winning those series were huge. Not only, from a standing standpoint or getting back above 500, but just from a confidence standpoint of knowing you can compete with the best of the best. And that's what they've been able to do. And I'm with you. I think you got to be fairly confident going into a series against the Braves, but this is a team that you're talking about not only competing with for the NL East, you're competing with them for the NL.
Over 500.
Yeah, those are this is the team that you will probably see in the NLCS if you're lucky enough to get there. So it's just something to think about, and it is a barometer game to say the least.
Absolutely, and it'll keep the fan base engaged if they're able to come home and win this series against Atlanta. But like I said, I don't want this fan base to get back to that lull, back to that that negative place if they lose the series. If they get swept, we can have a different conversation.
Yeah, that's bad look.
If they win one and they lose 1 by 1 and they lose, like, it sucks. It's not the goal to just win 1 out of 3, but you got to take it with a grain of salt, I think. And I wouldn't use this as, oh, well, they don't belong with the Atlanta Braves.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Do you think the rest that Topper was able to get some of the guys over the last?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that. You brought that up earlier. I think it's huge, bro. And hats off to Topper for kind of. I know everybody gets frustrated and upset by the lineups, and that lineup was ugly at the back end yesterday.
Yeah.
Like, I get it, but if he's thinking long game, if he did that with this day off today, planning, oh, we got Atlanta coming up, I want everyone, all these arms, this lineup fully ready.
Yeah,
that's big because look at the Sixers. We're gonna get into them in a little bit. Like, bro, if Nick Nurse, played Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey 42 minutes against the Charlotte Hornets, and then rested Joel 2 nights later at home against the Suns, would everyone be freaking out about his decision?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, it's just because baseball's played every day. It's not thought of as as physically exerting. as NBA, as basketball or hockey or football. So rest is like semi frowned upon almost if you're not a catcher or a pitcher in baseball. But I think, obviously he's had his issues with sitting Marsh and Stott against lefties. Marsh, I get, dude, Stott's hitting like over 300 against lefties in the last like month and a half. And Harrison's hitting like 213. So like there's no excuse to start Josh Harrison over Bryson Stott against lefties. That's ridiculous. Marsh, I think you can kind of make the argument for it. I haven't checked his numbers recently against left-handers, but I think the rest has been huge.
Yeah, and I think that's a big piece of it because you look at Christian Pache, for example, that comes back into the game yesterday. He's able to go 2 for 4, right? Two doubles in this game.
Kid, I'll tell you one thing. Kid is a lot better than I gave him credit for. I'm serious. Do I think he's an everyday ball player? No, I don't. But I didn't think he was an MLB player in the beginning of the season. I mean, granted, he was. You remember that? Remember him against the Yankees and he was bad. Dude.
The mental mistakes, yeah.
The speed in the glove flashed in Oakland when he came back. Like you just said, 2 for 4 with 2 doubles. He's a lot better of a ball player than I ever gave him credit for.
Yeah, and I think when you start to have guys like him, Clemens, and then, Sosa started out this season pretty well. You have all of these other pieces that are kind of fitting in here. And you mentioned the Sixers. It's funny, it's funny to compare across sports, but that's what the Sixers didn't have. The guys that kind of glue things together, and that's what these guys are doing right now. Sanchez comes in and gives you 4 innings and no runs, right? So guys are stepping up from all different angles for the Phillies right now. That is why they're ultimately rolling right now, going into a series against the Atlanta Braves, where they have a chance to, if nothing else, make up a little bit of ground in their chase of getting back in the NL East title run.
And, I mean, I would say this, dude, this morning, look, you got 3 against Atlanta. You're going to play them more. It's huge. The goal is obviously the division. There's months left of the season. It's possible. It's not, but I don't think they're going to win the division.
Yeah.
But looking at this wild card situation is so interesting to me because at the end of the day, we'll take any of the 3 spots. But Scotty, the number 1 wild card right now is Miami.
Yeah.
You think you and I are on the same page as to the Miami Marlins are going to come back down to earth at some point this summer.
Yeah.
The team below them in the 2 spot is the San Francisco Giants and then the Dodgers.
Yeah.
So the Phillies are in prime position to, maybe not win the division over Atlanta, but to obtain that number 1 wild card spot.
Yeah. I think that's a great point because you have to look at realistic, obtainable goals, and that is definitely one of them. You're talking about the Phillies being what, a game back. So a game back of the last wild card spot. So 3 games back of the Miami Marlins for the number 1 wild card spot. So that's an obtainable goal. Obviously, that's something that could potentially be obtained by the end of this month if the Phillies are able to finish the month strong, right?
Yep.
Not get swept by the Atlanta Braves and maybe win the series against the Mets. Win one of those series, right? Like that's what you have to make. That's like a realistic goal. I guess I'm kind of asking you that. Is that a fair way to assess these next 2 series? Win one of them.
Yeah, win one of them and don't get swept in either. You're 3-3.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound pretty, but you're 500 over that stretch after this incredible stretch that you had. You'd still be 4 games over 500. You survived, the two division teams coming.
Yeah.
The way they're playing right now, the Phillies should be shooting for 4-2 or better against these 2 teams. But like I said, the Braves are playing just as good, if not better, ball than the Phillies recently. Like the Braves scored 14 yesterday. Like they're gross, bro. So again, if you lose 2 out of 3 against the Braves and then take 2 out of 3 against the Mets, you're 3-3 over that stretch. Whatever, you know what I mean? You're 41-37 at that point.
It's funny you said that. Yeah, the Braves literally are playing at the same level, if not higher right now. They've won 6 in a row, just like the Phillies.
I have not looked at the pitching matchups. 10. I don't know if those are even listed yet or not, but that's something that I'd be interested to see. Like, do they get Strider or not? Obviously, we don't have a bullpen game. So,
Saul Ranger was the first one for the Phillies. Let me just check here really quick. I'm sure.
Which I love. I love, dude. That's awesome because he is just Mr. Calm, cool,
Strider versus Ranger.
I love that matchup because it's Ranger, the steady heartbeat, right, that Rob talked about when he closed out the NLCS last year. Never gets too high, never gets too low. To come home, you know that ballpark's going to be rocking.
Yeah.
Everyone knows like what's on the line right now against Atlanta to prove themselves to the fan base, right? To have that guy,
Ranger,
that emotion, to have Ranger out there, that steady arm, I like that. Rather, like if it was Nola, I'd be shitting my pants right now.
Nola's game 2. And then you finish out with Taiwan
which
Walker.
Again is going to be huge to continue to track Aaron Nola throughout the summer because that's a big game. But I mean the first game, because the first game in a 3-game set's obviously always huge. So if you can win that first one, now you got to win one of the next 2 in your own ballpark.
Yep. So you finish it out with Nola and then Taiwan Walker in game 3 against the Braves. Nonetheless, let's just make sure they don't get swept, try to win the series, and you move forward.
And shout out Craig Kimbrell, by the way, because dude has been phenomenal.
During this stretch, especially you talk about these games on the West Coast trip, right? Like to go through this West Coast trip the way the Phillies have is it's kind of abnormal in a sense. Like playing these late games, like it's kind of weird that they've been able to simply maneuver throughout this West Coast road trip. Going from Arizona to Oakland. I mean, it's just something that they've never been good at. I feel like in the recent years they just have had terrible West Coast trips.
They have been really bad in Arizona specifically.
Yeah.
So it was shocking that they were able to have that success there. And then once they get that success out of the way, you're just waiting for that, letdown series against Oakland after getting everyone excited. And no, they don't just win the series, they sweep Oakland. Right? So I agree, man. They've been huge. They've been really good. Day off, and we're back at it tomorrow against the Braves.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Can't wait.
Is my Wi-Fi okay?
Yeah, it looked like your camera just froze a little bit on me there, but I can hear you fine. You're back. You're good.
It's unstable, it says, so. Damn sure.
No, you're good. You're good, bro. So let's move on. We got another topic to discuss here today. NBA. Let's just put it that way. The NBA offseason has arrived, getting kicked off by the Bradley Beal trade to Phoenix. And we're going to get into quite a few different things here. It's not just going to be the Bradley Beal trade, although it feels like the Bradley Beal trade shaped the offseason, or at least the start of the offseason, maybe a better way to put it. So you have Bradley Beal getting traded to the Phoenix Suns for a package of Chris Paul, Landry Shamet, a handful of second-round picks, and multiple pick swaps. Dylan, let's start right here. This package, Bradley Beal. We discussed him basically all week last week, and the idea of him coming to the Sixers and competing with Joel Embiid, obviously, that got shut down by the end of the week. By the beginning of the weekend, we had an idea. Phoenix, Miami, maybe Milwaukee was rumored in there a little bit. Little rumors of Boston, but it ended up being Phoenix. Phoenix was the one that was able to get the package ready and put together, but then also get Bradley Beal to approve the trade, which want to notate there, the no trade clause. That could be the very last time you ever see a no trade clause in the NBA, because that was just a disgusting situation for the Washington Wizards to see how that played out.
Yeah.
They ultimately did it to themselves, so I don't feel bad for them at all. But Dylan, instant reaction to this trade when I believe I texted you yesterday. I was like, bro, Beal to the fucking Suns. What are your thoughts on this trade? Thoughts on Beal to the Suns, that fit, and just what this trade does to the NBA?
I mean, the fit's a little weird, a little interesting. Obviously, you brought up that point to me. Phoenix is clearly just, all chips to the center of the table trying to win in this little Kevin Durant period that they have right now.
Yeah.
Again, it's just you got 3 guys that can undeniably score the rock. I don't like the playmaking is a little odd. Obviously, they're going to bring in a point guard. Any point guard with a brain could come in and thrive in this offense right now. But the fit's a little bit weird, and they have no depth, and they're not going to have money to go out and spend. So Phoenix is in a very weird position where, like, you look at that starting lineup and you're like, holy shit. But are these dudes playing 42 minutes per night?
45, yeah.
It'll be really interesting, especially when you talk about Bradley Beal's recent, injury history. You talk about Kevin Durant's injury history. Book's had some injury history.
Yeah.
The Ayton situation's still weird there. So for that point, it's kind of like a wait and see thing for me. It could either be very scary for the Western Conference, or it could just be a big letdown for Phoenix. The trade, why couldn't we just be interested? We could have thrown them a bag of chips. Like, dude, this is why when Sixers fans tried to argue that Tobias Harris would have gotten this done.
Yeah.
And all right, here's 2 seconds. Tobias in 2 seconds would have gotten it done. Yeah. Scotty, they traded for Chris Paul. They're either going to release or trade Chris Paul.
Yeah.
Or bought out. Yeah. Second round picks and Landry freaking Shamet.
How many teams is this guy going to go?
So essentially, Landry Shamet, second round picks, and cutting that money.
Yeah. Because the pick swaps
Tobias
are
Harris gets that deal done.
Yeah.
Everyone was like, oh, it's going to take D-Mel. No, it wouldn't have. I tried to tell you, they are just, if they could, losing that money, cutting that Beal contract, and getting like that 1 year deal in Tobias Harris would have been enough in itself. If you want a second round pick or two, here you go, dude. Yeah. Throw them on the table, have at it, right? You want Furkan Korkmaz? Take Furkan Korkmaz. I don't care.
Yeah,
but
take that off
that's the disgusting part to me. And I know it's hindsight's 2020, and Philly fans do this all the time, where we're like, "That's it. Why didn't we do that?"
Yeah.
But in this case, we actually should have been interested.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't like an Eagles move where a running back signed somewhere and every fan starts freaking out that, why didn't we offer this? And but all it took was a 6th. Why didn't we do that? This is an actual perfect fit in my eyes. And that hurts, man. Yeah, no, I have no idea. My bad. I clicked on it at the same time.
Oh, no worries. I was going to say, Brett, like, it's a great question because we don't know. And he ultimately did end up picking the Suns. There was some type of connection between his dad and oh shit, alarm going off there. There was some type of connection between his dad and the Phoenix Suns and their ownership. Some type of connection there to where that was something that people could see coming as far as that being a favorable destination. So maybe the Sixers never had a chance, to your point, Brett.
I would find that incredibly hard to believe with the relationship with Joel.
We don't know because the Sixers jumped the gun and said, we're not interested, right? So we didn't know if Bradley Beal would ever be interested in coming to Philly.
Right.
To your point, for the pennies that the Phoenix Suns ultimately had to give up for Bradley Beal, it is a weird fit, but it's a weird problem you wouldn't mind having, I guess. Right. I would say it's like
I'm going to complain about having 3 guys that can average 30.
Perennial 25+ point scorers easily, right? And that's putting them at their basement if we're being
3
honest.
3 all-stars,
like you're not going to complain about that. And I can't sit here and hate on the Phoenix Suns for putting all their chips on the table. Like, I can't hate on that.
That's exactly what we want the Sixers to do.
It's going to be complex, like to fill in the roster spots around them. But to your point, you talked about it earlier. It's like they can bring in a middle of the pack point guard, a veteran minimum point guard to this team and still be fine, right? Like they're going to be fine. And the thing about Bradley Beal that I think gets undermined, and even Devin Booker to a further extent, is these guys can run an offense, and Devin Booker can facilitate. Bradley Beal can facilitate. We've seen Devin Booker average 6, 7, 8 assists at times. We've seen Bradley Beal average 6 assists last year. So at the end of the day, I think Phoenix Suns fans, you're probably happy with it considering what you gave up. You may be unhappy with it 2-3 years from now when if I'm being honest, I don't think the Phoenix Suns will win an NBA championship. If I'm being completely transparent,
when you trade for Kevin Durant in the middle of the season, you are sending one message and one message
you have to go
the league and your fans. You're going for a title. when you deplete your roster and your bench the way they did in their assets for one player, you are going for a title because if he's healthy, he might be the best player on the planet or the best scorer on the planet, right?
Yeah.
And now you trade for Bradley Beal. Like it's the model the Sixers went for by trading for James Harden at the deadline. We're going all in, but then they stopped. They like pulled back.
Yeah.
And we'll see what situation ends up messier, the Sixers or the Suns.
Yeah, it's interesting because the Suns I look at in a different light than the Sixers in a situation getting Bradley Beal, because you did have the opportunity where you could let James Harden walk so that you don't have a lump sum of money just within 3 players. Now, mind you, they would have had to extend Maxey at some point and give him close to a max deal. But nonetheless, I just look at the Suns, and while I say I can't blame them for making that deal, they are the exact example of a team that might not have been the best move for them to do that going forward, right? Like it could come back and bite them hard. I think we agree that you do it as the Suns just because you got to go and get as much talent.
Right. You have a 2 to 3. You have a 2 to 3 year window. That's what
from
you're
a
going
financial standpoint. It is cap hell. It will be cap hell, and
that's
it's going to be hard to recover from.
But it could be like that. That's the thing where I get frustrated with Sixers fans is like everyone wants to win a title, but they're worried about the 2027 salary cap.
Yeah.
I will worry about the 2027 salary cap at the end of 2026. If we don't have a title by 2027, Joel Embiid is what? 33, 34 years old, 35 years old. Yeah. That window's gone. Tyrese Maxey's, late 20s.
Yeah.
Like, this is the problem I have with our fan base. It's like everyone wants a title, but they want to argue about the way to get there.
Yeah.
And to Gid's point, like, yeah, dude, like the trade itself is utterly ridiculous. It was Landry Shamet and second-round draft picks, which I know some Sixers fans are just drooling over because Daryl Morey wants to acquire a second-round draft pick, but
it's interesting, because they keep DeAndre Ayton in that deal, and maybe they can move him, and that would put them in a little bit better of a situation going forward. Right. I look at the Suns and the Sixers in different lights, just because the Suns, that is going to be 3 literally like super max contracts on their roster with Devin Booker, KD, and Bradley Beal. Then you throw in the likes of DeAndre Ayton, but they're going to get guys on the veteran minimum, so they'll be able to plug holes. You have Frank Vogel out there. That's interesting. See what he can do with those guys. That trio. It's got to be one of the more talented teams he's had as well. Obviously, having the LeBron.
Scotty, you got to figure, man. Like, let's say they kept 8, and let's just say that's what they did, right?
Yeah.
And their starting lineup was D-Book, Bradley Beal, KD, Ayton, right? And that's their. It doesn't matter who the 5th is at that point. If they can get 2 guys to come off the bench and actually contribute, that's all you need.
Yeah.
We're in such a weird time in the NBA where we look at teams like Denver and we look at Miami and the undrafted free agents and the second-round picks and yada, 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 and this is how you need to build a team and you need depth. And you and I have said that before, and I don't disagree. But I do think there is an alternate universe where you can go in and try to win a championship with that roster. Like, if they stay healthy, I know you said you don't believe they'll win. And, dude, Denver's going to be the favorites. We'll see what both LA teams do. We'll see what the Warriors do, right? Luka, Kyrie, the West is going to be loaded again. But I promise you, if those 3 are on the floor, they're close to favorite in a lot of games.
I think that's fair to say. Yeah, I think that's fair to say that they're gonna be a favorite in the West. Would I take them over Denver, a team that's just played together longer, right?
No, not off the bat. Not off the bat, not at all. Because, obviously, to be the champ, you got to beat the champ. So Denver's going to come off as the favorites. They've been together longer. If they can keep their core, that's great. I'm saying if this big 3, so to speak, can stay healthy and the offense is just free-flowing and works, they're going to be a problem. Because I do think that's another way to build a championship team.
That's fair. It is fair. Like, I guess I'm starting to think about it, and it's just that's a big if they can stay healthy as well. Like, that's a
Absolutely.
huge if as well. Because like, what does that look like? Say KD gets injured again, and it's just Beal and D Book on that roster, and you just have plugins around them at that point. Like, or Bradley Beal gets injured again because he's played 90 games in the last two
Right.
seasons. I don't know. I do get what you're saying. I just think in today's NBA, where it feels like injuries are inevitable in a sense, it feels like that is a much lesser chance than, say, a team like the Denver Nuggets, which obviously we talked about chemistry. The Boston Celtics, even in the East, I know they flopped out this year. They're going to be a favorite again
Right.
going into
Milwaukee.
next season. Milwaukee, I think Milwaukee's another team that's going to bounce back. I don't know what they're going to do this offseason between Chris Middleton, Drew Holiday, Brooke Lopez, but I just feel like they're going to do something surprising and something that's going to put them back at the top or near it. But no, you make a great point. Anytime you have three superstars like that, three all-stars, let me not say superstars, that's a little high of regard, but three all-stars, you have two superstars there, you have a chance to win, and it's as simple as that.
Yeah.
The talent is there. The ceiling talent is there.
I wanted to hit on Brett's comment here because I think that's out the window. I think Tobias Harris, if moved now, is just straight for role players and depth at this point, or to free up cash, because Bradley Beal was the only situation to acquire a star, right? Maybe he's not a superstar anymore, but a star, where he had say his contract's bad. And Washington was just trying to cut money. Chicago's not just trying to cut money. Chicago, if they're moving Levine, they want a bunch of assets, major picks, young talent, right? Stuff like that. Other guys, like if you were trading for Dame, it wouldn't just be like Tobias. It's not going to be anywhere near, obviously, the type of deal you just saw Phoenix make for Washington. I think Beal was the only play where Tobias could be an actual, key piece. Now it's going to be like Buddy Hield-esque, role players type of deal.
I was going to say, I think with Tobias Harris, for me, it's like you said, it's not going to be a star because they're not going to attach Tyrese Maxey to any deal. And Levine, I think, is going to cost you Tyrese Maxey. It's not that it should. I don't think that Levine should cost you Tyrese Maxey. I'm not 100% sure that he's going to end up a better player than what Tyrese Maxey is, quite honestly. But that's what it would ultimately cost. It would definitely cost Tyrese Maxey for Dame. But nonetheless, I'm with you. I don't think it's going to be any type of superstar type deal, role players. But what I would say is that you could expect a better return for Tobias Harris than what the Wizards got for Bradley Beal. And that's kind of crazy to say.
Yeah.
Looking back on everything that we've discussed over the last few years, to think that Tobias Harris might net you 2 to 3 role players that could actually play in your rotation, and that's a better deal than getting Chris Paul and buying him out and Landry Shamet and second round picks. You say the Bulls are blowing up, Brett, but from what I've heard, they're trying to sign back Vucevic. So are they blowing it up? I think they're confused. I think they're going to operate based on what is offered to them. Like, if we offer Tyrese Maxey and Tobias Harris, I think they'll accept that. I don't think that they're not trading Levine. I just think they're not trading him for pennies on the dollar like the Wizards just did with Bradley Beal. They don't have
again, the Beal thing is just 1 in a million because of the contract.
That no trade clause.
That was their form of blowing it up. Like Levine, even if they are blowing up and they move, DeRozan and whatever the case may be, they're gonna want young assets, first round draft picks, multiple stuff like that.
And other teams can offer more. That's
Washington's blowing it up, but Washington was trying to get out from a 5-year, 50 pair kind of deal. That was the thing.
I would say ultimately a good target, I don't want to call it a dream target because I don't want to size them up too much, but an ideal target in my eyes would be I didn't mean to bring that back up.
Oh, you're good.
We both clicked it at the same time. A realistic target, Kyle Kuzma in a sign and trade, something like that would be really interesting if we could get him out of a Tobias deal. Maybe pick up like a Corey Kispert or a Delon Wright in the process with him. So I think that's something that's realistic, something that's on the table. One last thing about this Beal trade, ultimately, great that he didn't go to Miami. That's all I wanted to say. I'm happy he did not end up on the Miami Heat, because that would have been a nightmare in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah,
Nonetheless.
no, I agree. But you know what's funny is like I was talking about this with my uncle last night, and I said, "Oh, well, at least he's out of the East." And my uncle's initial reaction was, "Does it matter? Because are we winning anything?" And that's what he was saying. And so now, yeah, he didn't go to Miami, which is good. It is a positive.
Didn't beat Miami without Bradley.
Daryl Morey and the Sixers still have a lot of work to get done over the next week or two.
Yeah.
To build them back in the championship contention. Scotty, again, I love the Nick Nurse hiring. I love the coaching staff he's putting together. I'm interested to see how Joel and James and this offense can look with a new voice and a new mind. But it's not good. Just bringing back James Harden is not the goal. That is not good enough to get this team out of the second round.
Yeah. No, I agree.
It's just not.
I agree. I don't think it will be, though. To your point, I don't think it will be. I think Tobias Harris will be traded before we know it, quite honestly. And we'll see about James Harden. It feels like James Harden's going to be back at this point. Fred VanVleet asking for over $30 million per year.
Crazy.
That's crazy. And that's why they ultimately said they're not interested in him, which you cannot even blame them. Real quick before we get out of here, Dylan, I know you gotta hit the road here shortly. DeAndre Swift, let's talk about him. Expectations for DeAndre Swift going into this season. Obviously, we gotta hit our Eagles of the Day segment. We're gonna hit DeAndre Swift. We hit Jalen Carter on Friday. Obviously, a nice rookie sensation that we're looking forward to. But DeAndre Swift, it almost feels like a draft pick was made to get DeAndre Swift. That's how exciting this guy is. That's how much potential that we haven't seen.
How
even in
young
Detroit.
He still technically is.
Yeah, how young he is. The talent that we potentially haven't even seen from him yet in his time in Detroit, and what he could look like in this Philadelphia Eagles offense. Very quickly, let's spend about 5 minutes on this, man.
Yeah.
What are your expectations for DeAndre Swift going into this season? I know that we're both fairly high on him. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, man. I mean, I will not be surprised if DeAndre Swift is the starting running back. Obviously, there's going to be a carousel in that room, but the starter in that room. I have very high expectations for what Nick Sirianni can do with this kid, because Nick's kind of whole thing since he's come over from Indianapolis is those pass catching, shifty kind of backs that can do a lot of different things. And he fits that bill so incredibly well. DeAndre Swift will not rush for 1,000 yards. No Eagles running back is going to rush for 1,000 yards. And Brad's going high with it. Is this 1,200 total yards or 1,200 yards on the ground?
Total yards I could see.
Total yards I get behind. It could even be more than that total yards. He will not do it on the ground, in my opinion, because of that rotation, like Brett's saying. Yeah. But I'm going to throw you a bold prediction. DeAndre Swift will have double-digit touchdowns this year.
I like that.
Not just on the ground, but he will have double-digit touchdowns this year.
Big plays.
I'll say definitely – I'll say over 700, 800-ish rushing yards, couple hundred receiving yards, and like 11, 12 touchdowns total.
It's interesting because I wanted to pull it up just because obviously the thing to look forward to with DeAndre Swift is the receiving threat out of the backfield. Like just that big play ability to catch the ball like a wide receiver, go out in the slot like a wide receiver, and ultimately make plays after the catch. I was looking at Miles Sanders' numbers over the last 3 years. So obviously Miles Sanders' first season, rookie, he was used in the passing game a lot. 509 receiving yards his rookie season, 50 receptions. Since then, he never went up over 30 receptions again in his career. So he just wasn't used in that facet. So, yeah, I think when you look at that aspect, DeAndre Swift, for example, has not seen a season where he hasn't eclipsed 45 receptions in a season. So he's a guy that likes the ball in his hands through the air. He's going to get those opportunities in this offense. And like you said, Nick Sirianni is going to be super creative with it. We saw how he used Hines in Indianapolis, as you mentioned there. I'm excited for what Swift can do. Obviously, I'm with you. I do think he's going to score touchdowns, and I think that's a way that
something he didn't do in Detroit because he wasn't given the opportunity. Yeah,
take weight off Jalen Hurts, right? Keep him healthy and not put him through the stress that he's had to do in recent years. As he does have that huge contract now, he's a big money guy, so you can't throw him in there just whenever you want to now. So using DeAndre Swift in that facet, I think is going to be huge. I'm with you though. I do think we watched Miles Sanders go over 1,000 yards last year, and I think the instant thought is, I've even gone on record to say I think DeAndre Swift is better than Miles Sanders.
Right, so it's easy to say he'll do more in the offense.
Yeah, it's easy to think that he'll do more, but what I would argue is that you have Kenny Gainwell in his third season, right? So he's going to be better.
I think Rashad Penny is going to get a decent amount of touches.
This is going to be probably one of the most competitive backfields that we've seen in recent years for the Eagles. So with that being said, it's going to be hard to keep Rashad Penny off the field for a long period of time, right?
Dude, I think they're going to be such a fun 1-2 punch to watch.
Yeah.
And then you throw in the mix of Jalen Hurts' ability to run the ball. Like, it's going to be a lot of fun. That's why we chose to talk about Swift today, not just for him, but for what he provides others. And you mentioned like the fact, like, Miles ran for this, so it's easy to say he'll do more.
Yeah.
We talked a lot about the pass catching ability. That's where that doing more can come into play. It might not necessarily show in yards on the ground and everything like that, but a combination of both is where DeAndre Swift will impact this offense a lot more than Miles Sanders did.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. I'm thinking somewhere around 600, 700 rushing yards, 400 to 500 receiving yards, obviously get up over 45 to 50 receptions on the season. And I do like the number you put out there of double-digit touchdowns, right? It's something that will, I think, come easy for him if I'm being honest, right? You're playing with Jalen Hurts, you're going to get so many opportunities to get in the end zone because there's going to be so many misdirection plays, so many option plays, even the receiving threat, as we discussed heavily already. Just being able to do that in the red zone too is going to get him more opportunities. I'm with you though. I think he could get there, and looking at that, what I just said, that would be around 1,000 yards total, right? 1,100 yards total.
Yep.
In an offense like this, where there's going to be mouths to feed, that's a very, very successful season for DeAndre Swift. So I think we're all on the same page here. It sounds like Brett is pretty high on DeAndre Swift as well. From a talent standpoint, the Eagles may have gotten better this offseason. That will be soon to be discovered. But nonetheless, let's go ahead, get out of here on this Monday, my man. It's been
people growing impatient out on the balcony.
Hey, you're down at the shore. You can't blame them. They want to get out on the sand, get the sand in the toes. So can't blame them
just lock the door
on a fine Monday here. But I did want to say, I meant to touch on this, Brett, because he commented it, talking about CP3 getting redirected to LA Clippers, Covington, Eric Gordon to Washington. If they get bought out, yes. To answer your question, Brett, I think that would be a no-brainer to go after Eric Gordon, maybe even Robert Covington, give you some wings, some athleticism there. But to answer your question, yes, Sixers need to explore all options this offseason. Nonetheless, that's going to be it for this episode of the Phaithful Fanatic. For my co-host, you can find him at DylanJD98 on Twitter. For myself, you can find me at Scotty Drown. That's going to be it for this episode of the Phaithful Fanatics. Be sure to check us out on Wednesday morning at 8:10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. We will be trying something new. So just to give everybody a heads up out there, we will be starting a new channel specifically for our different types of content on the DSM channel. So things will still be streamed right here on the DSM channel, but we're going to have a Philly Sports DSM channel starting, and then we'll have an NBA and an NFL DSM channel starting as well outside of this channel. So it's all for an audience in a way to get out to more people on YouTube. Dominate the algorithm, right? That might be the new hashtag, is dominate the algorithm, because that's what we're trying to do here. We want more engagement, bigger community, and hopefully with the new channels, we'll be able to target that audience directly. So just keep an eye out for that on Wednesday. That should be starting. We'll be live on 2 separate pages. But nonetheless, guys, have a great rest of your day. Be sure to follow DSM Media on Twitter at DSM_media. And, of course, be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel, DSM Media. Help us grow there. Like the video and share with your friends. Have a great rest of your Monday, guys. Go make some money. If you're working, go make some money on Monday. But have a great rest of your Monday, guys. That's it for this episode. Peace.